Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Gladstone Leslie Samuel, who aims to energize organizations and empower employees. He has lots going on, so I'm going to leave it to him to tell you more. So thank you for joining us, Gladstone, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Patricia. Good morning. And I really appreciate accepting my request to be a guest on your podcast platform. I'm really thankful to that. And I'm also sorry that I couldn't participate as per the original schedule due to some emergency. I really appreciate accepting my revised schedule. But it did take some time to understand your background and expertise and watch a few of your videos on YouTube. It was quite enriching on different topics and different experts coming on a platform and sharing their insights. And I'm sure your audience take a lot of things after interacting with you on different social media platforms. So I really appreciate the efforts. And the commitment you have your presence on social media. So coming to my background, my name is Gladstone Samuel, and then I have a BTech in mechanical engineering. I have done my master's in journalism and mass communication. I have an MBA in information technology. I also have a postgraduate in industrial safety. Coming to my certifications, I have a project management professional PMP certification to handle global projects. I also have a Six Sigma Green Belt certification. I'm also a certified technical writer. Coming to my career progression, I have more than 25 years of corporate exposure. I've been associated with leading companies like ABB, Invensys, IDC, SPIC, and Technip. And my core focus areas includes employee engagement, project management, and technical documentation. So that's my brief summary about my background.
Well, you have lots going on and lots of well-named companies in there, so good for you. Nice. Yes. I guess I'm giving what your dream focuses on. Can you briefly explain the concept of a dream job and share your thoughts on whether it's a myth or reality?
Sure. Well, the concept of dream job was always confusing and fascinating for me. Even today, though I've been in this domain for a long time, I feel that there is no absolute lack of absolute clarity in terms of this concept because it's very blurred, and there's always a lot of debate between whether it's a myth or a reality. So ideally, if you talk about a dream job, it is about an individual able to meet all the expectations. But in reality, the objectives of a dream job have diverse expectations. For example, an individual could be influenced by the compensation and benefits, and if it's going to be very lucrative, that could be a dream job for a particular person. For another person, it could be working in a company that has a very good brand reputation. For a few, it could be working on a cutting-edge technology. For others, it could be working in a company that is the best place to work, or it could be working abroad in global assignments, or it could be also setting up your own business and so on and so forth. So the dream job dimensions are pretty multifaceted. But then according to me, what I realized over a passage of time is that every job, according to me, is a dream job. For the simple reason that you need to do your best given a task or an assignment. And during the process, you get the job satisfaction, you get opportunities to learn, explore, collaborate, and co-create, and do many other things. As long as you have the mindset, then I think every job becomes a dream job for you. And that gives a solid foundation for your career progression, and you can move to the next level. So there is nothing like a job which is inferior or superior. And that I realize is pretty late because aspiring for a dream job and then you don't get the one, you get frustrated over a period of time, and then you lose your interest and motivation. That shouldn't happen. So it's important that you attach a due amount of importance to every job and do your best. And for example, when I completed my engineering way back 23 years ago, I really wanted to apply the concepts to what I studied in the university in real time. So I was looking for a job that could give me an opportunity to really appreciate what I studied in the university. I got a job in a fertilizer manufacturing industry, and there I could really sense and visualize what really happens in real time in terms of production. That gave me a lot of satisfaction. Though the job situation was very risky because it was a chemical process industry, there was occupational hazard, personal safety concerns, working in shifts. Despite all these constraints, at the end of the day, I felt very happy that I've chosen a job that is giving me a lot of satisfaction in terms of learning, understanding new concepts, visualizing what production is all about. So at that point in time, it was a dream job for me. But that is not what it's all about. So I wanted to go to the next level. So it's a constantly evolving process. It is not something that is stagnant. Every job becomes a dream job as long as you're able to do your best. Then I think there is nothing like you're not taking. So.
Right. No, you're right, because everybody has their own different views of what a dream job. Some people might say, okay, well, they have a great retirement package, or this one has great benefits, or this one I have, sick time and vacation time. And this one says, I don't have any of that, but I get great pay every week. So depending on what your needs are, and like you say, it evolves through time. What might be your dream job this year? Maybe now you have a growing family, you need additional things, and that dream job suddenly isn't cutting it. So yeah, understanding it all, and yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
Because what I also find, Patricia, that quite of my colleagues and peers at work, they always talk about a dream job and they get frustrated and demotivated because they're not able to meet their expectations. Right. They feel that they need to become a director on the board, or they want to become a CEO, CFO. Maybe the thoughts are good, but in real time, it doesn't happen. But what they also miss out is they're not able to do a good job in the current assignments, and they miss out on that. And that's something which is crucial. And as long as they're able to appreciate that, given an opportunity, they need to prove themselves, and then they're on the right path. And that's where the mindset plays a huge part in terms of pushing yourself in the career path.
Yeah, and having, realistic expectations. Like people, nowadays they graduate college and they want to be president of the company. I mean, most of us started from the ground up. I was a receptionist. I was a secretary. I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I had blood, sweat, and tears, but I did it all. And I eventually reached the point. Didn't happen overnight, and I had to I was working 18-hour days, nights, weekends. You paid your dues. I learned a lot, which was amazing. But people have to have realistic expectations, because we live in a world of instant gratification. Everybody wants what they want when they want it, and that's now. That's not life.
Absolutely. Just adding to what you said, Patricia, another thought that comes to my mind is maybe a few years ago in my earlier organization, what happened is I also created my own position in the organization. That's how the dream job evolves. It's not that it's a title something. For example, it was a big organization. It's called ABB, and we had more than 3,000 employees sitting in one floor. And one of the biggest challenges for the management was about communication. And it was always talked about in the management and executive team meetings. And I found that given an opportunity, I can plug the gap. So I went with an action plan to the management saying that, why not give me this opportunity? I'm there to push whatever is required from a communication perspective, be it internal communication, marketing, or whatever is required for the organization to move forward. And the management was more than happy to give this assignment to me. And over a period of time, I became an internal communication specialist, though I had a chemical engineering background, and I became a part of the management team. And they were very gladly accepted my contribution, and they created a role which was not there in the organization. So that's how you need to take things forward. So it's not that it's a job designation or a title. As long as your purpose is there, you're passionate about what you're doing, then things are going to evolve for you.
Yeah, and they probably saw your, motivation, your dedication to success, where, a lot of people, like I know people who, they can be very talented, but they just think that's enough. There's a lot more involved in that. And if you, like anybody who started their own company, their own division, whatever, you have to really see it through, and it doesn't happen at the blink of an eye unless you, like, even I always make a joke, not that it's funny, but I always say, unless you have a cure for cancer, nobody cares. But even that doesn't happen overnight. That took a lot of work to get there. And, people have to learn and understand that.
Absolutely. Another dimension, Patricia, is that during the process, what I also felt is any obstacle, hindrance, or challenge becomes a wonderful opportunity for you to demonstrate yourself, So you don't lose your interest, or you don't get dejected, or you don't lose your patience. But then, as long as you're passionate about that, then you find ways and means to circumvent the problem and find solutions to that. And that is a win-win, because you also learn during the process and also benefiting the organization and employees. And they'll be more than happy to receive that and then and reward and appreciate you. And that's the best thing as part of the job satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always love that, any type of job is not that you love problems, but it's always like, what can we do with this? How can you make this better? And to stand behind that and be like, I was part of that. That's amazing, and you feel good, your company feels good. Yeah, people have to really see the big picture, because I always tell everybody, it's not about you. You have to look at the big picture.
Absolutely. Very true. Yeah, because you are part of the organization and there are a lot of other employees, diverse expectations, challenges, and as long as you're able to put them together, have a common vision, and then helping them to be successful, then I think you're doing it. So,
nice. Now tell us, in today's rapidly evolving job market, do you think the notion of a dream job has changed compared to a few other decades ago?
Yes, Patricia. What I feel is when we reflect back about the Gen Z and Gen Y, their career aspirations are completely different. Maybe we too belong to that category. We would not be too much interested about having a social status attached with a job, but as long as we get a job, we are able to manage our livelihood, then it's fine. So that's how we thought our careers when we started maybe a couple of decades back. And then the problem is right now the Gen Z has a different shift in terms of how the job market is all about. They want to get everything right up. They want to get the promotions tomorrow. They want to travel abroad. They want to work on cutting-edge technologies. They want to get a fancy designation, which is not going to happen in real time. So there's a huge paradigm shift between how people thought about their careers a couple of decades ago and how people are perceiving it right now. So that is a consideration for balancing the reality versus expectation. That's a challenge here. So as long as you are able to match this expectation, then I think you're on the right path. For example, I was talking to a few new employees as a part of my job, and they were the job role. What we defined was not what they were actually expecting. They said, "I want to have a complete flexibility in the work what I do. I want to be completely empowered." The language itself was completely different to the times when we were being hired. We had a very stringent job description, rules and regulations, etc. But this is not the case right now. They're asking for a lot of things which the companies at certain point couldn't afford as well. But then things are changing. The employee engagement concept itself is going through a transformation. They're talking about employee experience, holistic well-being, and the very nature of work is being redefined. So definitely the dream job concept has gone through a sea change now, and still there is a lot of flux when you try to match the expectations with reality. And Gen Z is in a completely different world. And post-COVID, companies are also struggling to match their expectations in terms of providing them the flexibility and giving them good opportunities, etc. So I really believe that it's going to be a long haul for the companies moving forward in terms of matching the Gen Z. Also, they cannot lose the expertise of the senior people. So they need to be sure about how they take a judicious decision balancing the different workforce. So in terms of the career expectations, they should have some customized approaches to balance everybody's career path and ensure that attritions are low, and also ensure that we are taking care of the part of their journey and all.
It is funny with the different generations, because like we all know how it was when we started, and when I see like my kids and my stepkids and my friends' kids and different generations, and I just sit here and I'm like, when they complain about the jobs that they have now, and I'm like, I did 10 times what you're doing for like 1/10 of the salary you're making. And that just is what it is. That was the job you had. You were grateful to have it. And we did so much more. And I'm like, we couldn't complain. Like even walking in, say a supermarket, no one cares how bad your day was. Every customer was, "Hi, how are you? How was your day? Can I help you with anything? Oh, did you find everything?" You did everything. Now they're on their phone. You're doing all the work, and you're like, you have a question, and they're just like, just scan it, and I'm like, oh my God, if I ever did this, but the generation just completely changed. So I'm a little out of the loop on how, employees, because it's just completely different from how it was back in the day.
Very true, Patricia. And if you see larger organizations, the companies where I worked earlier, we have the silo mentality. And I'm sure you accept that. People doesn't want to even say hello or say good morning or good evening. They're just attached to the laptop, and they don't even turn around and say or wish their colleagues or peers. And that's not my job. You give me a task, I come at 9 and leave at 5. That's my task.
Yeah.
And there's no way I need to collaborate, network, no others. There's absolutely nothing written in the job description. They're going to that level. And it's very suppressing and strange because these can't be written in a corporate policy. And as you're working in a company and then you're expected to move with people, learn, enjoy, have fun, etc. But I think that is a challenging proposition in the current context.
Yeah, definitely. That term, that it's not my job. Oh my God, I want to strangle somebody. I'm like, it has to be somebody's job. It's not mine. I'm not getting paid to do it.
No, yes, true. And at times, it is very demotivating as well because certain toxic influences come into play. That's very difficult to manage. And as long as one toxic employee is there, it is bound to corrupt the entire system. So you need to be careful about weeding out these people at the nascent stage and ensure that there's a balance in the team. And the moment you tend to be a bit more lenient, then it's going to create chaos in the team, which I have experienced a number of times while handling projects. So I ensure that there's no silos when it comes to job profile. So people talk to each other, exchange ideas, wish, share knowledge, and only then you become a part and parcel of the team, and you're doing it for your own good and for the benefit of the organization.
Yeah. I guess tell us, what advice would you give to someone who feels that they're not in their dream job and they're struggling to find fulfillment in their current role?
As I said earlier, many of my friends or colleagues or others working in different organizations always ask this question to me that what this dream job is all about. I am still not finding one. Though they are in a very good position, they get good salaries and they are held in high esteem, they still feel a bit of emptiness in them. And what I find is a dream job is constantly evolving, and there is no end to the exploration process. There are a lot of question theses being written around that dream job, but that's a different story altogether. What I realized is you need to be sure about your purpose. So when I started my management role, I was crystal clear about what I wanted to do. So I said to the management that I'm good in my internal communication. I like to network. I like to collaborate. So I would like to become an employee management manager in the company. And I had proven demonstrated skills, and the management was more than happy to give the role to me. So the purpose and objective was pretty clear. So once it is there, I was very passionate about what I was doing. It was not a 9-to-5 job. I used to come at 9, but I absolutely had no clue as to what time I left office. And there was nobody to even supervise and monitor me. I was directly reporting to the CEO. And he told me, Gladstone, I found a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Please do whatever you want and just ask for the support we are ready to give you. And that's the language what I had, or the association what I had with my CEO. Because he could see visible changes in my approach. And he was saying that it was for the betterment for the organization. The employees were energized. There's a lot of improvement in the productivity, and there's improvement in the morale as well. So I was passionate about what I was doing. And the rewards and recognition automatically flowed in. So that is how you need to be sure about positioning yourself. And then also you need to be sure about how you adapt to change. Because I find people are very stubborn to change. They said, oh no, I will be in this position. Nobody can change me. I don't want to be disturbed. I don't want to learn new things. This is the technology I will work. But that can't be the case in the currently rapidly changing environment, right? So you should have an open mind, be receptive to change, accept the change, and then take some corrective actions or learn something so that you're able to move forward as a part of the process. So as long as you're having a flexible mindset, then I think you're on the right path. And quite a few employees are very stubborn with change, and that is not good for them because managers will feel that, okay, this is not the right fit for a new role, so we'll look for some other opportunity or some other candidate. That's bound to happen. And then you also need to be sure about balancing your expectation of reality. This is one thing which I keep stressing time and again, because when I became an employee engagement manager, it's not that they gave me a salary hike right away. They said, please prove yourself. And that's how it's going to happen in real time. It took me 2 years before the management really appreciated, though they really supported me. It took 2 years for me for them to give me a salary hike based on my revised performance. And it does take time, isn't it, Patricia? Because you need to be sure about your results, your outcomes, and they will try to assess not only your performance, your attitude, your behavior, which I find is extremely important for your career progression. So all these things come into play. So what I felt is I need to be sure about my attitude, character, which is the fundamental building blocks of your career path, and then also your competence and skill. And then once you're sure about your expectations, then you match the reality. And once you're able to do that, then you're on the right path. And that's how I have positioned myself over the years. Though at times it didn't happen at the moment I thought. You need to be patient as well. It's not that you ask today and tomorrow the management is going to give you the job or role what you like. They'll say prove yourself. And similarly, there was another instance which I would like to quote. For example, though I did my PMP certification for global project management, when I went and asked my superior that I want to run a project, they said, and what is the basis on how I can give a project to you? Do you have any proven experience? And I absolutely have no answer to them because I didn't handle projects at all. Though I had a valid certificate, they wanted for real-time experience. So they said, okay, you go and shadow somebody who's doing a project, and after 6 months, we will rehab it. You can access your skills, and then you can become a project manager. It took me more than 1.5 years before I could be officially called as a project manager. So that's how it happens in real time. So you should have the patience, you should persevere with that. And then with your skills and acumen and other things, you will get what you want. But then this is how it happens in real time. So nothing is going to come you the moment you ask or you desire. That is all a wish list. But then to make it happen, the dream job is always there as long as you're able to be passionate about that and you're clear about your purpose. And mixing these two, you will be really on a rewarding career path.
Right. And it's very important. Like you said, the world is constantly changing. And if you don't continuously learn and evolve, you're going to be left behind. Like I remember over 30, not that I'm aging myself, but over 30 something years ago, I worked at a company and I was a receptionist way back then. And I remember these women, no one learned computers. I mean, they were kind of new back then. And at one point, the company had closed their doors. And all I remember thinking is at that point, as you know, I was learning computers because, you know, I was working part-time in high school. But going back, I'm like, now even receptionists, you have to have, you know, computer skills. And all I kept thinking back then is, what are these women going to do? They've been at that job for like 30 years, but they never evolved. And, you know, they never realized computers are coming on board now. We have to learn this because they were just like, not my job. Now it is your job. Now what are you going to do? So you just always have to, you know, even if you don't want to learn about it, just check the news, check the chat rooms, check everything and just say what's evolving. And because you never know, life can throw some pretty bad curveballs at you. And as those women saw.
Absolutely. I do agree, Patricia. Even now, when I started my career, I haven't seen a computer in my life 25 years ago. Nor I didn't know what a mobile was all about, nor any access to digital platforms. It was everything, very difficult for me. And during the process, I also got an opportunity to author a book from a leading publisher in Australia. And believe me, without an access to a laptop, with a aging old computer, I used to key in all the data. It was such a cumbersome and a laborious task, but still I persisted. I pushed on because my passion was I really wanted to become a first-time author.
Right.
And despite all the constraints, challenges, and limitations, it took me 6 months to more than 6 to 8 months before I could complete the book. But then all the hard work really paid off when I saw the book in my hand, and that's the satisfaction what you get. Right. And all these worries and challenges will go away. So I do agree with you. Yes, it's the path is going to be stormy, difficult, challenging, but then as long as you're able to overcome that, as long as you're sure about your purpose and passion, it's going to be a rewarding.
Yeah, so hard work pays off.
Absolutely, that's it.
Now, I guess moving on to the topic of VUCA, can you explain what VUCA stands for and how it impacts the work environment?
Well, most of us have been experiencing a more stable and comfortable environment post pre-COVID. Right, we had a very comfortable living. There was absolutely no chaos, no confusion, no mass death, etc. But the moment COVID kicked in, then the whole world changed altogether, upside down, right? And that's where this term VUCA was extensively used across the management sector. So it's an acronym. It stands for volatile, uncertainty, complex, and ambiguous. That's the abbreviation for VUCA. And what is the essence in the current context is companies are facing a rapidly changing environment. And the COVID has also compounded the problem. So it is not the normal way of working. And what I understand is employees are looking for different ways and means of doing work. It is not the traditional 9 to 5 work. They're looking for flexibility in terms of hybrid, working from home, remote, gig economy. A lot of things are kicking in. So how does a company manage this rapidly changing environment? And that's where this VUCA concept kicks in. And for that, what has happened is companies are coming up with different strategies, which we will discuss in the next question or whatever. But then people are recognizing that VUCA has to be addressed. That's the first point. So you can't push it under the carpet saying that, okay, it's not going to happen. And these type of black swan events can happen in the future, and companies are gearing up for that. So what does the expansion for VUCA mean all about? So when you talk about volatility, it talks about the unpredictable situation that faces us. But things could change very quickly. And when you talk about uncertainty, it talks about the environment that is full of uncertainty at times. And then we talk about complexity. There's a lot of integrated things that could create chaos and confusion. And ambiguous is nothing but lack of clarity. That's the core essence of VUCA. And when I was working during the COVID period, this really meant a lot to the organization. So it was not just an acronym, it was about how do you manage VUCA. And companies were not ready in the first place because it was such a disaster. And it was a painful experience for all of us during the COVID period. So no company had a ready-made answer. But this gave some sort of a framework for companies to resolve this challenge. Mm-hmm. And that's where VUCA came as a buzzword, and people started to talk across the management circles in the executive board and across leadership teams to see that what can be done to mitigate this problem.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's important. People, if anything, COVID showed us is that expect the unexpected, and how do you navigate through it, so most people go with the flow, but they're never prepared for the what if,
True.
Yeah.
And another dimension to that is when I was handling projects, maybe VUCA is a term, but then in terms of handling global projects, we talk about risk management. Yeah. So that's another concept which also supports managing VUCA. So what happens is in a project, definitely it doesn't go as per a plan. We can think about the normal situation, Patricia, like going to work from home to office. It doesn't happen on time. The traffic mess and a lot of other things disturbs our plan, right? It could be as simple as that. I think about a project environment where a lot of uncertainties. So as long as you're able to understand what risk is all about, what is the probability, what is the impact, and how you mitigate risk, what is the backup plan, then you're on the right track. But at least you should be aware and appreciate there's a possibility of a risk or an uncertainty that's going to kick. Only then you'll be able to manage the VUCA concept. That's the bottom line of the concept.
Nice. I guess with the increasing VUCA nature of the business world, what are some strategies that companies can employ to keep their employees engaged?
Well, the VUCA has to start from the management level because it has to come top to bottom. That's how the system works. So it starts from the management team, then goes into the leadership team, to the mid-management, then across the length and breadth of the organization. So first, you should be clear about how you're able to have a clear, compelling vision. It's not about the normal vision values of the company. It's about the vision on how you can address VUCA. That means you should have a clear, compelling story saying that in case this is going to happen, then employees are going to behave in this way. Okay, that's how you should take that step. Similarly, when it comes to the mission, it's not the normal mission. It's about how you can implement in real time. So the employee should be educated or informed about how to react when this type of an environment kicks in. And then we talk about core values. Ethics forms the backbone of an organization. So you can't take or short circuit or bypass any core or moral values that goes along with an organization's behavior. So employees need to be educated, informed that they still need to be ethical in their way of working. They can't do anything that is bad or that can bring that can damage the reputation of the company. So these three underlying factors are how management focuses on addressing VUCA. And what happens is they create core focus teams within the departments to ensure that this is disseminating from the top to the bottom, and then they discuss and see how employees can react, or they also look for suggestions and advices and suggestions to find ways and solutions to address this environment. So it is not only from the management, it's also from the employees. And once they have a clear picture about how to address it in the future, then all this are documented. This becomes best practice over a period of time, and this is made accessible to every employee. So in case they have some similar situation, then they are free to refer that and then find a solution to that. So they're not again reinventing the wheel one more time. Mm-hmm. And let me give you an example of how this was done in the earlier organization. We had a drafting problem in terms of an administrative issue. Mm-hmm. And And employees were very, very stubborn not to accept the biometric way of entry because they felt that it was infringing into the security, privacy, and many other things. But there was a lot of productivity drop due to many reasons. And management felt that it was high time they brought in the biometric way of attendance system. So it was a big change, and employees were firmly resisting. They said, "No, we would not like to have this electronic attendance system, and we would simply like to come in at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock." That's what they were saying. So how do you address this change? And there were more than 3,000 employees in one building. It was a big problem for the management. Uh, it had to be done in a way that we were able to take the confidence, slowly build in that case study for them, saying that it's going to be beneficial for them. They can track their own time. If they want to extend the time, they can work overtime. They can compensate many things. So a lot of use cases were prepared, and it was distributed and explained to all the teams, and they could really understand and appreciate the benefits coming out of the electronic data management system for the attendance. And it took us more than 3 months to make it happen. And finally, all of them really appreciated, saying it's a good one. And it was a big change for the organization. So it doesn't happen overnight. So the management also persisted, and they went and shared their the case studies. They said what was the purpose behind that. It was not to penalize someone, but it was in the benefit of the organization and for the employees. And it finally happened in the end. So what I meant is like change is not easy. And from an VUCA environment, it is much more difficult if you want to take it to the employees. And as long as you are having a convincing case study and then supported by use cases, and then you're able to demonstrate on the ground, then things don't happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's where I guess communication's big, it's a big thing, and not just from, the high end talking to the low people, but the low people talk, I always say we're all in it together. We all have the same goal for the company to succeed. So you need me, I need you. How do we make it work? Because the high end, they know what the rules are, they know what's expected, but the low men might say that's where the experience comes in too, where they can say, well, in order for this to happen, here's what would be better, and you kind of come to a happy medium what works as long as everybody has the same goal. It can't be an employee who just says, well, I just want a paycheck to do the least amount of work. You have to have the same goal and communication, but that's pretty cool that you were able to pull that off.
Yeah. Just adding to what you said, Patricia, when you talk about communication, since I was an internal communication specialist as well, one of the biggest challenges I found is there was a lot of top-down communication from the management. Mm-hmm. But when I went and talked to the length and breadth of the organization, a lot of employees, they said, yeah, absolutely, we have no clue about what is being circulated to us. We have no time. This is something that is not a part of my job description. Right. A lot of crazy responses. And the management was always confused, and they came and asked me, Samuel, we are trying to do our best to communicate whatever is required for them to work, but nobody's interested. They don't even open the official email and check what's being done. But the problem was, when I went and talked to them, they said, fine, there is a lot of communication coming from the CEO, from the management team, to the leadership team, to the employee. That is fine. But there is no channel for us to communicate what we wanted to communicate back to the management. Mm-hmm. That was a big gap in terms of the communication. So when I went and talked to the management, they said, let's open up the channel. So we conducted monthly meetings where the employees would talk to the CEO, the management team, express their concerns, share their opinions and feedback, so that it was a two-way communication. So there was a dialogue, and that created a lot of trust and mutual respect and cooperation. And things started to change because people started to trust the management. So they said, okay, our voice is being heard, our issues are being resolved. We have a space to communicate what we wanted, and there was a lot of momentum building. Yeah. So once we provided the channel, then things really moved in our favor.
Nice. I mean, communication is important, and even I've seen some companies where you might have an employee who says, I have some issues, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be penalized. I don't want to get in trouble. So they would have I guess like in college where you'd have I forget what the terms are, like headmistress or whatever, where you communicate to them and they communicate to the higher ups. They could have like a person in the middle, or even like like some companies have like a suggestion box in the back of the room. You anonymously put in your feedback, and it would get read. So even if it's something that you're like, I think what the management do and it's horrible, but here's what I would do better, but I can't tell them that. Put it in the note, put it in there, and the management might even say, I don't agree with you, but I see where you're going with this. Or they might say, wow, I didn't even realize that, but that's where the communication, because again, you all have to have the same goal. You want the company to succeed, and together, you just come up with the best solution. So that's awesome that they actually finally did it. You see the results.
Oh, yes. And I recollect an incident, Patricia, when I was an employee engagement manager. We ran an initiative called Net Promoter Score. Have you heard about that, NPS? It's an employee engagement survey, and it was run across the length and breadth of the organization. And then the idea was to ensure that what are the things that would help employees to progress in their career path, to be becoming more productive, enhance the brand image, make our customers happy, and many other things. And the challenge is most of the questions or the issues raised by the employees where the management was not in a position to resolve it immediately for various reasons and for legitimate and logical reasons. But the challenge, what I found is, it was important for me to communicate this to the employees. And once I did that, they really respected the management. They said, okay, our voice was heard, but at least they were in a position to give some response saying that maybe this could not be taken up at this point in time, maybe 6 months down the line, something will be resolved. And that really worked in our favor, because as long as you're silent, then they're not going to participate in the next survey in a more purposeful way.
Right.
And that for that, you should have the guts and conviction to go back saying that, okay, there are 100 questions that is coming up. Maybe we prioritize 25 is going to be taken up this year, with the next 25 the next financial year, and so on and so forth. And once they give the plan, and once they see that things are happening on the ground, that's where the momentum builds. And that's where the cooperation and collaboration kicks in. And then it really works in the favor of the organization as well as for the employee. But the biggest challenge, the biggest learning that I found from that is, you should go back to the employees and tell them what is happening on the ground. Don't hide anything to them, and be transparent and timely. And once you're able to do that, then surely it's a good sign.
Nice. Yeah, people want to be heard. They're putting all their work into this. They're like, well, I'd like you to, or even just ask people, we succeeded in this. What do you think about that? Then it'd be like, oh my God, you actually care what I think? Yeah, it was a lot of work, but we did amazing. Something, just let people know that you recognize them.
Absolutely. Another technique which I used at work was management by walking. It's called MBA. So what I did is, early in the morning, as soon as they come to work, I start going around the cubicles and just observing how employees are. Not even talking to them, just observing the body language. Are they cheerful? Are they wishing each other? And things like that. And then that gives a pulse of how employees are feeling about the organization. And when the employees see me, they also feel encouraged. Okay, somebody is coming and seeing us. Okay, it's a very good sign. Because normally what happens most of the management teams are busy. They don't even have the time to go and check how the employees feel. Or they inquire what things are they requiring any support? It doesn't happen. It just happens only during the performance reviews every year. And that's something which is not a good sign. So the moment you reach out to the employee, then there is a positive vibe, and then people start to respect you. They come to you, they ask for support, and you reach out to them. And there's a lot of bonding that happens. And that I like it very, very much.
Yeah. I mean, and there's such simple ways of doing it. Like, it could be, depending on how big the company is. If it's a decent sized company, you can have, like a birthday calendar. Whose birthday's this week? We'll celebrate. If there's many in a company, you could have a monthly, on this Friday, we celebrate everybody for that month. But it lets them know that, wow, they care. I mean, it makes, because if employees are going to put so much effort into the company, they just want to be seen and heard and know that you acknowledge me, because so many, especially in the years of cubicles, you didn't even know who people were. They were you just saw boxes, and they were people, they were the slaves to the company, and that's it. You couldn't tell who anybody's name was. You knew nothing, Yeah.
Yeah. Just one more instance. You would have heard about the town hall meetings where all the CEOs and big people come and talk, and then employees sit in a row and listen to whatever thing rambled, and then they walk away. And this happens in my company as well. So initially there'll be around 1,500 people sitting when the meeting starts. Midway, 500 would disappear. At the end of the day, there'll be only hardly 100 employees sitting. So it was such a demotivating and a demoralizing effect on the management team, despite all the efforts to showcase the event. So the grassroots problem was, employees really didn't understand why these meetings were held in the first place. They said it's a sheer waste of time. It is distracting my job. And what is the outcome from the town hall meeting? So I found out that they really wanted to be on the stage. So I went and talked to this to my CEO saying that, sir, please give an opportunity for the employees to talk about the success stories, the milestones, their troubles, the hardships, how they went about creating a customer satisfaction, and then things are going to change. So we took this bold step, and in the subsequent town hall meeting, a few employees who had done an outstanding work were given the first opportunity to come on stage and talk.
Nice.
And you can see how employees' eyes, their eyes goes were just raising at the stage. Things changed dramatically because the voice was heard and they felt appreciated. They felt that okay, this is a platform for us to showcase our competencies. The management team is there, and a lot of my friends are sitting in front of me, and I feel so happy. It is much more than anything they could get in terms of a rewarding speech. And that became a best practice in my company for a long time.
Nice. And you see the results, so that's awesome.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Now, how can employees prepare themselves to adapt and thrive in a VUCA environment, and what skills are essential?
Well, as I said, the first important criteria is about accepting the change. Let me quote an example. When I was heading a technical documentation team, we were being used for specific tools that is required for publishing the work. But then we also felt there's a need for another tool that can combine all these things together and have one uniform way of working. And this change was stubbornly refused by all the employees, saying that we have been used to this tool for a long time. It'll require a lot of training. Maybe I lose my job. Productivity will be lost. I feel uncertain in the new job environment. A lot of other things which were quite genuine. All this were genuine and very true statements that needs to be addressed. So how do you do that? So there was a need for them to give the proper training. So as long as they're able to do that, then they feel that they're taken into confidence. They're having the required competency. They get the skills to get the job done. And it was a 6 months period. We spent a lot of money, time on training and development. Finally, things started to fall in place. So the point here is you can't immediately enforce anything very quickly when it comes to an VUCA environment. You need to be empathetic. You need to understand what's the pain from the other side, and then try to address the problem one at a time. So the skills, what is primarily required is about change management, and you should be clear about your reskilling and upskilling. You should be willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay, you need to be flexible. You need to be adaptable. Okay, you should have an open mind, and all these things are very critical for navigating through an VUCA environment. And as long as you have the skills, then pretty much you are on the right path. Because if you are stubborn to be non-receptive to feedback, then how is that you're going to improve? I could see a lot of employees who never listen to any feedback. They feel that I know everything. It's absolutely not the case. And I have given a lot of feedback to quite a few employees saying these are some of the areas where you need to improve. But they take it very lightly and finally they fail. So if you are not willing to listen to constructive feedback, then the scope for you to improve vanishes, right? That should not happen. That's one of the things which I also found in real time. So you should be having an open mind to receive feedback and take corrective action. And for that, one of the biggest stumbling block is your ego.
Yeah.
As long as you're egoistic, you won't be willing to learn or relearn and unlearn. So that is another thing that you need to be very conscious of the fact that it's not that everybody is perfect and complete. You are having your own issues, your limitations, and you need to be sure about how you rectify these issues moving forward. So these are some of the skill sets which are predominantly required when you face a VUCA.
How can employees and employers work together to redefine the concept of a dream job in the VUCA world?
Yes. It's a collaborative effort that the direction will be coming from the management, and also it should come from the employee as well. So primarily it is about the career progression. So what I find is like more than the company pushing the employees for a career path, it's about you, how you want to position yourself in the organization. As I told earlier, I define my own role in my organization in terms of an internal communication specialist. So you need to be sure about how you want to move up in a career path. For example, in my team, I had a person who was very good in communication. Okay, but that person did not have any technical writing skills in terms of creating technical documents. So what I did is I asked the person to go through a technical writing certification, and once the certification was done, the person was inducted into the team, and then that person became a very good, accomplished, and a proficient technical writer. So the career path was defined, and the person was able to cooperate, understand, appreciate, and within a short span of time, the person became a lead and finally became a project manager to head a global technical writing project. So that's how you need to position yourself, and then you get the support from the organization. As long as you're showing your passion, your purpose is there, then it's the win-win for both, because the company will understand that, okay, as long as this employee is going to perform, it's going to be good for the company, for the customer. So let's support and promote the employee. So it is going to be a mutual cooperation and collaboration, and then as long as that is going to gel, then things are going to work in your favor.
I guess, can you give us some key takeaways on how both individuals and organizations can navigate the challenges of VUCA environments while striving towards the goal of achieving a dream job?
Yeah, as I said earlier, the dream job is a constantly evolving mechanism. It's not stagnant. So there could be a case when somebody finds a dream job very quickly and they get into a stagnated mode also, because they felt that they've got that and then there's nothing to take it forward. So that's another downside of a dream job. So what I feel is, from an employee perspective, you need to be sure about doing your job, what has been assigned to you in a good way, in a productive way, in an ethical way. Be purposeful and be passionate about what you're doing. That's the first. Second thing is, you should be willing to learn, relearn, and learn. And the third thing, you should have that flexibility and adaptability. And the fourth thing is, you should be receptive to feedback. So all these things are essential to make your dream job happen. And there is nothing like a dream job tomorrow or the other tomorrow. Whatever job you're doing right now is your dream job. And as long as you're able to do it in a good way, you can be very sure that you're going to move on a career path. Similarly, from the employee's perspective, they're going to give you a career path. They'll tell you this is how it is going to happen in your team, and this is the opening, this is the opportunity. Why don't you question yourself? Why don't you learn something? Why don't you collaborate? Why don't you invent something? And as long as you're able to clutch onto this opportunity, then it's a win-win for the employees and for the employee to ensure that that dream job concept is always being met in real time. That's how it happens in reality.
Nice. Anything else you want to talk about, that what you're working on, or anything that we haven't covered?
I think we have covered most of the points what we want to discuss this evening. Patricia, I think we have covered most of the points.
Nice. So now tell us, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn, so I don't have a website as such, but then I am always reachable and accessible on LinkedIn. So if people want to connect with me, I can connect with them, network, and collaborate.
Okay, cool. And I'll put the LinkedIn post on here also. So thanks again for being on the show. Again, that was Gladstone Leslie Samuel. So thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the show. So thank you again.
Thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate your time and efforts in setting up this podcast. I'm really grateful for your time, and I'm looking forward to the podcast whenever it is distributed on social media.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.